Okay. We're going to the house party this time. I think I'd like to meet your friends. Quinn smiled, though it looked slightly forced. Honestly, I only have a couple of close friends. Everyone else are acquaintances I hang around with for fun. Some of them are serious assholes, especially when they're wasted. Try not to take it personally. Suddenly, the idea of meeting his friends seemed a lot less appealing. Quinn sensed my hesitation and leaned against me, bumping his shoulder against mine. I'm used to it, but I promise I won't let them harass you. Don't worry. The rest of the week passed quickly, and before I knew it, Saturday arrived. Quinn helped me with my clothes and makeup before we left. We arrived at a mansion that was almost as big as my childhood home and completely crammed full of people. I could hear loud bass music playing from the sidewalk. The party was extreme. Everywhere I looked, people were drinking, using narcotics, or in various stages of intimacy. Quinn tugged me along, keeping me from freezing in surprise at the things I observed. We pushed through the thick crowd inside and made our way into the kitchen first. Quinn poured us some drinks from the limited section. I winced at the taste, and he giggled at me. I can mix some coke with it. Somehow, I don't think that would help much. Makes sense. Sweet girls like sweet things. Hope I'm sweet enough for you. I giggled at his flirting. I was about to fail at a witty response when a voice shouted at us. There it is. Oh, this is that cop, right? Yo, Quinn. Cute guy jogged up to us and bumped Quinn in the shoulder with a laugh. He was drunk. I'm not an it, ass hamper. Thought you didn't care. Quinn rolled his eyes as he shoved a drink in the new guy's hands, then pushed him off. Not available anymore, jackwad. David, this is Valkii, my date. I blushed faintly, having completely forgotten in my anxiety, but he was right. This was our first date. Date? That pretty innocent thing? You like corrupting him? Quinn showed me a dirty grin. Could be fun. Come here, cutie. Let's all have some fun together. I froze. David approached with a grin and reached out to wrap his hand around the back of my neck, leaning in for a kiss. I'd never had a stranger come up and touch me before. Some guards at home once made some crude comments at me, but they knew Brandon would be delighted to tear them apart if they crossed a line. Before I could think of what to do or how to respond, David was yanked back by the collar of his shirt and shoved against the refrigerator. Quinn smacked him hard. Do you fucking understand consent, asshole? If they don't say yes, it means no. Quinn was furious. Even David looked shocked at the rage. His cheek was a fiery red from where he'd been hit. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you, bitch. It was just a kiss. If you want something to kiss, how about you kiss my ass? Get the fuck away from us before I hit you again. Yas, Quinn. I love you. I heard a laugh behind me as David left the kitchen with his tail between his legs. I spun, still unnerved, to see a handsome man with dark blue eyes grinning. Fuck, Quinn. I'm impressed. Didn't think you had a pair. I've offered to show you multiple times, Julian. Julian feigned a gag and they both laughed before he turned to me. Sorry about David. He's a friend of mine. He's actually a really cool guy. He just lacks some boundaries when he's drunk. But he'd never take it too far. He knows I'd kill him if he did. Is that intended to be a joke? Would he actually kill his own friend? Well, we've seen him, so we've been on his route, so no. I honestly have no idea. I glanced over to Quinn, unsure what to believe and a bit anxious by the threat. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. I know, he just pissed me off grabbing her like that. It's her first time at a party like this. Really? How does a sweet girl like you get wrapped up with a pervert like Quinn? He's my roommate. Roommate? Does that mean you're available? I blushed when he winked at me. Quinn glared at him and stood at my side. I'm also her date, dumbass. Julian laughed and took a step back to grab a silo cup and pour himself a drink. Quinn must really like you. Never seen him act so jealous over anyone. I'm not jealous. Sure, obviously. Quinn grumbled, but I couldn't help but laugh at Julian's teasing. As I laughed, Quinn slumped and sighed. Okay, maybe a little. I'm sorry, Valkii. I reached an arm around his shoulders and gave him a light squeeze. It's okay. I was nervous, so I appreciate you protecting me. Quinn smiled in relief and hugged me. Oh, I almost forgot. Amanda was looking for you. Seemed important. I think she's out back. Oh? Weird. Come on, let's go find her. She's an old friend. Amanda. I followed Quinn out of the kitchen and outside. There was a large empty pool in the center of the backyard. People stood around in various groups, chatting and fooling around. Quinn quickly spotted his friend leaning against a tall fence, chatting with a big group. Beside her was a handsome red-headed man who eyed me with a smile. As we approached, she spotted us. Her eyes widened and she rushed to meet us halfway. Hey, girlfriend, there you are. I was looking everywhere. Hey, this is Valkii, my date. She glanced at me nervously before returning her attention to Quinn. Can we talk for a minute? Yeah, go for it. She glanced at me a second time. Maybe alone? This is Valkii. She's fine. Tell me what's going on. Amanda sighed, clearly unhappy about me standing here, but she gave in. I wanted to let you know Dion's in town. I have no idea why, so, be careful. I looked over to Quinn and saw he looked terrified. I had no idea who Dion was, but it was clear he was bad news. You sure? Yeah, sorry. I saw him myself. God, did he see you? No, I'm totally okay. I caught a glance of him and ran for my fucking life. He didn't see me, I'm sure of it. Quinn whimpered and jumped forward to hug Amanda. She hugged back and gently rubbed his back. That could have been she returned the hug and gently rubbed his back, not put back. It's fine. I should stop being so critical. I should really stop being so critical. I'm glad you're safe. You shouldn't be here. Neither of us should. I'm not staying long. I only came to tell you. Here, take this. It's my new number. Let me know if you hear anything. Amanda handed Quinn a small scrap of paper. Quinn took it and pocketed it immediately. Yeah, good idea. I'll text you tonight. Thanks for the warning. Yeah, nice meeting you, Valkii. Sorry to ruin the party. No, thank you. Thank you so much. Amanda nodded and walked back inside the building. I looked at Quinn with confusion. He stared back with a grimace. I know you're confused. I'll explain later. We need to go home. Okay. We returned home. It was clear on the drive that Quinn was growing more nervous by the minute. As soon as we walked into our apartment, Quinn rushed to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of vodka and poured himself a large drink. You're scaring me, Quinn. He eyed me apologetically and stood in front of the kitchen island. Sorry, before I started college, well, my entire life before then was a big mess, one fucking disaster after another. I was homeless for a while and, I met Dion. The guy Amanda was talking about. Yeah, Dion was great at first, gave me a roof over my head and put food in my belly. It was easy to fall in love with him, but things got twisted around quickly. Well, long story short, he became controlling and abusive. It was really hard to get away from him and I barely did. I went in hiding after I escaped. Oh God, that's terrible. Quinn sat on one of the stools, put his elbows on the counter and buried his face in his hands. Worse than terrible. Being with him became a fucking nightmare. He drugged me up and made me do things I couldn't stomach until... fuck. I sat down beside him and rubbed his back. If you want to talk about it, I'll listen. Thanks, but I can't. Not now. Yet. I'm gonna call out of work for a few days to be safe. Wow, he's really afraid. Quinn drank from the vodka bottle again and put the bottle back into the fridge with a sigh. I could see the anxiety all over his face. Should I call out too? My job at the cafe starts tomorrow. No, hon. I'll be okay here. He doesn't know where I am. I just need to make sure it stays that way. I understand. I promise I won't say anything to anyone. Quinn smiled at me and pulled me into another hug that I thought he needed a lot more than me. I squeezed him back tightly, refusing to let him pull away. You protected me, so I'm going to protect you. No arguments. Call me if anything happens, okay? Thank you. Shut up, Casper. The next morning, Quinn was still asleep when I got ready for work. With my phone, I was able to find the way easily enough. The cafe wasn't too far away. I arrived to see Julian talking to the redhead I noticed at the party when we spoke with Amanda. They were both behind the counter. Hi! I didn't know you both worked here. I hope I'm not late. Julian looked irritated, but it wasn't directed at me. No, you're on time. Introductions. This is Sebastian, and her name is Valkii. Apparently, this is his first day too. Fucking manager didn't tell me there'd be another new hire. Sorry, I talked to him yesterday, so it was a last-minute thing, but I'm happy we'll be learning together. Nice to meet you. Yes, nice to meet you. No, it's not. Whoa, Sebastian is working here. Honestly, not surprised. Come on, let's get started. Morning rush starts soon, and we're the only ones scheduled, so this will be a disaster. Julian gave us a quick tour of the cafe, a rush tutorial on the register, and a lesson on how to craft the most common beverages. Sebastian would work the register while I assisted on orders. As predicted, the morning rush was a mess. We couldn't keep up with orders. People were complaining about the wait times and leaving with impatience. Despite the difficult situation, I was proud of us. We did the best we could, all working closely together as a team and helping each other every step of the way. When the last customer of the morning left, Julian immediately lit up a smoke, which I was pretty sure was illegal, but I wasn't going to fight him on it. Sebastian poured all three of us small coffees, and we collapsed around the counter in exhaustion. We had a few hours until lunch. Went better than I expected. Good job. Yeah, I think we did okay, all things considered. You did great, darling. I beamed as Sebastian praised me. It was a weird feeling, but even though I was exhausted, today felt like a major accomplishment. My first real day of hard work with 2 new friends. Thanks, but we all did great. You taught us really well, Julian. He blew out a puff of smoke, smiled, and nodded. Anytime, babe. We should celebrate after work, darling. How about dinner tonight? My treat. I'd love to, babyface. Julian's words were playful, but his tone was vexed. Sebastian scowled at Julian in reply. I disliked the sudden tension in the air. I can't anyway. I promised my roommate I'd help him out tonight. Another time, perhaps. We fell into an awkward silence, which lingered for the rest of the workday. Since we were short-staffed, we all ended up working a double shift till closing. Nearly ready to go home, I stumbled upon Sebastian sitting with his head on the table in the break room. You all right? He turned his head just enough to see it was me, then sat up straight with a smile. Yes, darling, my body is just beat. I've never worked that hard that quickly in my life. Aren't you exhausted? I will be once the caffeine wears off. I haven't been much of a coffee drinker before today. Oh dear, that crash is going to be hard. Stay hydrated. Will do. Thanks for the tip. That offer for dinner is still on the table if you changed your mind. I know I'm far too exhausted to cook today. I don't mind buying some takeout for your roomie. The offer was exceedingly tempting, but I wanted to check on Quinn as soon as possible. I was already unhappy leaving him alone for so long, but he'd assured me over text he was doing fine. Stop harassing her. She's not interested in a creep like you. Julian's voice startled me. I jumped back out of the doorway to let him pass. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Fuck off, man. Asking her to dinner is not harassment. She already told you no. Drop it. Mind your business. Please stop. I hate arguing. They both frowned and mumbled an apology. If anyone gives you trouble, let me know. I'll make sure it stops. His offer was kind, but his glare at Sebastian made his intentions clear. Sebastian glared back, ready to retort. Enough, children. Both of you. I appreciate both of your offers, but I decline. I have plans tonight, and I can handle myself. Sebastian grinned widely and nodded. You're far stronger than you look, aren't you, darling? I stared at him blankly, confused by his statement and why he would say it. Strength is born of suffering. The world is in a sorry state if we're proud of that. You're not wrong. Well, you two have fun philosophizing. I have shit to do. I was tucking on my jacket at the crosswalk when Julian caught up to me. Hey, you forgot this. His outstretched hand held my cell phone and I gasped, took it, and glanced through my notifications. Thankfully, there was nothing urgent. Thank you. No problem. Saw it on the shelf behind the counter. Yeah, I was keeping it there to check throughout the day in case Quinn needed me. Is he okay? Yeah. Not my story to tell, but someone he wants to avoid is in town. Alright. I'm serious about my offer, by the way, for both you and Quinn. If I can help, let me know. That's really sweet. You and Quinn must be really good friends. No, not really. It's a weird love-hate thing, but he's a good guy under all that skank. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. You're a good guy, too. I don't know about that. I just detest people who hurt or take advantage of others. Speaking of which, I want you to be careful around Sebastian. Something about that guy rubs me the wrong way. Really? He seems nice. A little pushy, maybe, but nice. The way he looks at you when you're unaware pisses me off. Just be careful around him, and let me know if things get weird. Okay, will do. Thanks for looking out for me. He smiled softly and cupped my cheek. I won't mind taking you to dinner sometime, babe. If you'd like that, let me know. He didn't wait for a response and instead turned and walked away. I stared after him, stunned and blushing. When I got home, I saw Quinn in the kitchen cooking, which was a huge relief because I was starving. He waved at me as I entered and kicked off my shoes at the door. How was work, hun? Painfully exhausting. I sat on the stool at the island and laid my head down on the cool surface. Quinn frowned and poured me a small glass of juice. Sorry to hear that. Food's almost done. Did anything bad happen? No, we were understaffed. Some people called in sick for the evening shift too. That sucks. Was Julian nice at least? If not, I can give him some shit. I laughed and shook my head. No, Julian and Sebastian were both really nice. I don't know a Sebastian. It was his first day too. He just moved here like me. That's cool. I'll stop by sometime to meet him. It was a bit awkward though. They both asked me out to dinner. Like a date, I think. Quinn paused, shifting a brow up as he looked me over. What happened after that? I told Sebastian no, then he and Julian got into this weird argument. Julian sort of asked me after work, but said to let him know if I wanted to. He didn't pressure me for an answer. Do you want to? I thought we were seeing what happened. Are you going to go on other dates? He smiled at me with relief. No, I want to see where things go with you too. I just wasn't sure how you felt. So we're kinda like boyfriend and girlfriend now, right? Quinn turned off the stove and smiled excitedly at me. I'd like that. Yeah, me too. Julian's a big video game nerd. He always has the latest big release. Most of the games I have are considered classics. I got home from my college courses the next day early due to a cancelled class. Quinn still wanted to hunker down to hide from Dion for a couple more days just to be safe. Since we were stuck inside and wanted to spend time together, he suggested we play video games. That's okay, I haven't played many games. My brother and I would play together on rare occasions, but that was only a few times a year. I played some with my siblings when I was younger, but games were a brand new thing back then. Julian's controllers have like 30 fucking buttons on them. I can't even imagine. Have you played games with Julian? We don't hang out much if that's what you're asking. He brought a console to a couple of parties and we played some casual multiplayer games together. My ass was bruised from being kicked so hard. Quinn started up a game and taught me the basics, then we played for a few hours. I struggled to kill the first boss for a long time, but with Quinn's advice and support, I eventually succeeded. Does this game have a story? It seems like it's just a little man jumping on monsters' heads while they're playing Mario. Mario. I think he's trying to save a princess or something like that. I lay down on the floor in relief with a sigh as the victory music played. Good job, you did great. Haha, liar. Took me about 30 tries. That was hard. You killed it so easily. I played that game before, hun. I struggled my first time too. Quinn lay beside me on the carpet on his side, elbow on the ground and hand propping his head up. He looked down at me with an amused smile. That badly? Maybe not 30 tries. It's just a game. It doesn't matter. I know, I just get frustrated because I suck at everything. You do not suck at everything, hun. Yeah, I do. I struggled with everything my entire life. My mother and brother both said so themselves. Well, your mother and brother are fucking assholes. Maybe you just haven't found something you like enough to care about. Care about? Yeah, babies aren't born with Michelangelo's skills. Talent may be a thing, but they also just enjoy art so much they keep trying and get better over time. My brother seemed to be good at everything he tried. I don't discount talent, but passion is a strong factor, hun. Maybe your brother cares about more things than you. Regardless, don't beat yourself up over it. I bet there are a million things you haven't tried doing that you might be great at. Oh, like what? Like gardening, art, sewing, baseball, making jewelry, calligraphy, learning languages, writing, sculpting, golf, race car driving. Race car driving? Well, I bet you haven't tried it. That's true, I guess. A race car driver. I think my brother would have a heart attack and my mother would die of embarrassment. Fuck him then. Find something you love to do, even if it's just a hobby, even if you suck at it. Yeah, maybe I should. You do sculpting, right? Yeah, when I have the time. Want me to teach you? If you don't mind, I don't want to be any trouble. Quinn was already scrambling to his feet and rushing into his room. He came back out a few minutes later with a big worn bag which he plopped down beside the coffee table. I watched in fascination as he pulled out bins of clay and various metal tools and spread them all over the table. This'll be super fun. Let's get started. What do you want to try and make? Maybe a flower? Wow, you look nice. I smiled brightly as I walked into the cafe that morning. Quinn did my hair in a fancy updo and I was wearing one of his skirts. Thanks, it's super cute, right? Absolutely adorable. I saw his cheeks flush slightly pink and his gaze awkwardly shift away from me. I hoped I wasn't making him uncomfortable. The skirt almost reached my knees, so I didn't think it was inappropriate. My queen is positively radiant. Queen? I told you to prep the bread. Sebastian's eyes briefly burned with rage, but he shook it off and turned back to me with a smile. I simply wanted to greet my co-worker. We're a team after all. Hurry up, we're going to be swamped again today. Be nice, Julian. I'll help you, Sebastian. I would love that, Dal. No, I need you stocking the display case. Oh, and what will you be doing? This is a job, Sebastian. We all do work at a job. I have to refill the napkins and sauces and coffee bags, prep the beans, and start baking the pastries. So get to work. I scowled at Julian and folded my arms over my chest. Enough, please. I don't want to listen to you two bicker all day. I'll put my things away and start on the display case. Go Team Jerks. Sebastian chuckled and Julian sighed as I left the room. 15 minutes later, I was filling up the display case as instructed. Julian stepped around me and started digging out the bags of coffee beans from the lower cabinets. Sorry about earlier. It bothers me how he talks to you. Just let it go. I can handle Sebastian. That's the problem. You shouldn't have to handle Sebastian or any other guy. There's something wrong with him. I can sense it. He's a creep. He hasn't done anything wrong, Julian. Am I supposed to just wait around until he crosses the line before I say anything? That's fucked. I glared at him, growing annoyed. It's also fucked to punish an innocent man. If I need your help, I will ask for it. Until then, let it go. He slumped and looked at the bags on the counter, avoiding my gaze. I could see the frustration on his face as his fists clenched. You're right, damn it. I don't mean to dismiss you. I sincerely appreciate you looking out for me, even if it's a little much. No one but my brother has ever done that for me. He gave me a sympathetic look and a sad smile. I know the feeling, but I'm here anytime you want me. Want? Thanks. He turned to me with a small frown and reached his hand to touch my cheek, but he hesitated before his skin made contact. You're just so precious. I feel this strange pull towards you, this need to protect you. I took a step backwards, suddenly uncomfortable with the glint in his eyes. Like I said, if I need your help, I'll ask for it. Yes, don't hesitate to reach out, sweet girl. Feeling strangely uncomfortable, I nodded and made a quick escape to the back. Sebastian was in the small kitchen, setting bread dough in the baking sheets and sticking them into the special tall ovens. Is something wrong, darling? No, He dropped everything and approached, eyes locked onto mine and a concerned look on his face. Buttercup, you can tell me anything. I'll help you however I can, no matter what it is. Tell me. What on earth? This is so weird. Why are they both so insistent on helping me? I shook my head and took a step back, suddenly wishing I could be anywhere but here. They were both being so possessive, and I barely knew either of them. I'm just going to the bathroom. Everything's fine. I came home late, completely exhausted, but when I entered the apartment and saw Quinn, I couldn't help but smile. He sat on the couch in a short, sleek nightgown that fit him snugly. An old romance movie played on the television. One foot was resting on the table as he painted his toes an ungodly neon pink. His hair had been styled and curled. On the table sat a new, small, unpainted sculpture of a flower pot, blooming roses, lilies, and tulips in stunning detail. Some freshly baked cookies sat beside the sculpture, tinting the air with a delicious smell. You look happy. Quinn looked up and smiled brightly as I sat down beside him. Honestly, I really needed the mental day. I hope this isn't weird for you. What would be weird? Quinn gave me an adoring smile. Maybe you haven't noticed, but your male roommate is sitting here in a girly nightgown painting his toenails after baking cookies. You look cute. I love you more every day. The seriousness of his words surprised me. He grabbed a cookie from the plate and offered it to me. I was hungry, so I stuffed my face, thankful for the option to fill my mouth before he said something stupid. Quinn picked up the sculpture and showed it to me. I made this for you, to thank you for being you. I wanted to finish it today, but my neck started hurting from being bent over it for hours. I'll paint it tomorrow. Looks better than mine. I laughed and looked over to my first miserable attempt at a flower sitting on one of the shelves, dried but unfinished. I didn't make it to show you up or anything. I thought having a 3D reference would help. Plus, it's the next best thing to buying you flowers. It's lovely. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. I want to talk to you about my past. I thought a lot about it yesterday and today, and if we're going to become something more, then you deserve to know. I just hope if you don't want to be with me after, we can still be friends and roommates. I'd be okay with that. Of course we can, Quinn, but I won't judge you for doing what you had to do to survive. He put away the nail polish and grabbed a cookie for himself. He held it and stared at it for a moment before he spoke again. I left home as a young teenager after a lot of fighting with my family and other problems. That's all the story for another day. I had nothing but the clothes on my back and the junky car I drive now. I was homeless when I met Dion. He pushed me into drugs and booze. I'd never touched the stuff before we met. He said it was all to have a good time, and I bought it. And we had a lot of fun together. We got into some crazy sex stuff along with the drugs, but I was truly enjoying myself. He was still the good, loving, absolutely perfect boyfriend at that point. I drowned in his affection and comfort. I felt really safe with him, and he explained to me what polyamory and swinging were. I'd never even heard those words before I met him, but he made it seem normal. Were you happy with him then? Yeah, until he started complaining about money. It took me far too long to realize that was his plan all along, and he was just manipulating me. It started innocently enough. Dion needed money, drugs, and booze were expensive. Needed money. Drugs and booze were expensive. He happened to have a bi-curious friend, and that friend happened to offer cash to fuck me. He prostituted you? Quinn nodded shamefully and bit into his cookie. The first one was a dude I'd met before, a normal guy. It was no big deal. It was a safe introduction to the idea. Dion was clever like that. Everything got worse from there. The Johns got bigger, crueler, cheaper, and more disgusting. The more I disliked it, the more drugs he'd pumped into me to convince me. When I started to fight against him, he'd pull me back in with love and affection. When that stopped working, he'd beat me into submission. That's horrible. Quinn nodded, then shrugged after a moment. I got lucky, because most stories like that end right there. The victim overdoses, gets killed, or trafficked somewhere. But something good happened. Some rich, high-class woman came to buy ecstasy, and for whatever reason, she took one look at me, found out I was a guy, and demanded to buy my company for the night. And she gave Dion a fucking ton of money, way more than I'd ever made him before. Company? What happened? She was cool. She took me to a store, bought me a fitted tuxedo, cleaned me up, and took me to some fancy party. She introduced me as her date to make some asshole ex-boyfriend jealous. All I had to do was fawn over her like she was a princess and pretend I was madly in love. I got an amazing fucking meal out of it, too. We both chuckled awkwardly. Oh, mini story. Dion realized there was an entirely new market he'd never known about. High-class escorts. It took him a while to make the right connections, but once he broke through, I was in high demand. There was something about the pretty boy androgynous look that sold. I looked girly enough for homophobic men to experiment with without feeling like they were. And I was boyish enough for women to feel safe and comfortable around me. Some wanted sex too, but many just wanted someone to call their date so they didn't get harassed at parties and shit. I could be dressed up manly or elegantly enough to pass for Novo rich of either the Novo riche, I don't know how to say that, it's French, of either gender, and I had enough of an attitude to give off a don't fuck with me vibe for the ladies. Let's translate. It's probably gonna be really loud. So give me a second to turn it down. Actually, it's not playing. Okay. No. Vu. This doesn't even mean anything.
Nouveau riche.
Nouveau riche. So loud.
Nouveau riche.
What does it mean?
Nouveau riche.
What does new mean? People who have the long-term wealthy, the new rich. I thought it was the new rich. Should have gone with my gut. Okay. Okay. How did that feel, being used like that? A million fucking times better than what came before it. I got beat up a couple of times by some jealous asses trying to prove their alpha male bullshit, which only disgusted the women, cause avoiding that was the entire point of bringing me. But it was worth it, because all those filthy rich people would tip me really fucking well, especially if something went wrong, because they felt guilty about it. And I was able to hide all that money from Dion. Did that cash help you escape? Yep, once I had enough money to survive for a few months, I made a plan to leave. I went to another fancy party, faked illness before the end of the night, and hauled my ass away before Dion found out. He usually lingered outside the party, but he couldn't cover the entire place by himself. I found some servant exit, jumped the fence, and ran till I found a cab. That took me to a bus station, and I bought a ticket to a random town 4 hours away, halfway between where I was and home. Why didn't you go home? Quinn grabbed another cookie and broke it up into little pieces, but didn't eat them. He stared down shamefully at his hands. I had a lot of problems at home with my family before I left. I wasn't ready to face them again after everything I'd been through. I'll tell you about that another time. Hey, it's okay. You don't need to tell me anything you don't want to. Here, let me hug you. I slid closer beside Quinn and pulled him into my arms. I could feel him trembling slightly and his skin felt cold. Everything's okay, Quinn. My feelings for you haven't changed at all, I promise. I've been tested, just so you know. I always use condoms now, and I get tested twice a year since I escaped. I have the paperwork still. I still slept with a lot of people that don't give a shit about me. You make it sound like you don't want to. You aren't forced anymore, right? Quinn anxiously rubbed the back of his neck with a sigh. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm lonely and touch-starved, and the only way I've ever been shown affection is through sex. Makes sense. Most people look down on me. No one has any interest in me outside of that. Not until you moved in. Quinn reached out and held my hand, smiling gently. I squeezed his hand in response. Loving, healthy relationships seemed mythical until you came along. That seems pretty intense, Quinn. We haven't been together. Quinn reached forward and cupped my cheek, moving in close to me. We could change that. Right now. Ooh, this is a choice. Get rid of Brandon. Let's kiss him. I didn't move. His palm was warm, and I felt the tickle of his breath hovering over my lips. I waited for the inevitable, but it didn't come. Valkii. Quinn leaned back and gazed into my eyes. He looked at me with soft kindness and concern. Do you want this? You have to tell me one way or the other. I won't touch you unless... Surprising even myself, I leaned forward and pressed my lips against Quinn's. It was a nervous, gentle kiss, a mere brush of our lips against each other, but it was enough for Quinn. His fingers threaded through my hair to tug me closer, not as a demand, but simply as encouragement, permitting me to enjoy this closeness. The kiss ended far sooner than I wanted, but Quinn didn't let go of my hair or move away. He merely leaned slightly back and searched my eyes, silently questioning me in ways I didn't understand. His smile grew wider before he kissed me again, making me melt against his body. I felt so cherished around him in ways I'd never experienced, as if I were a precious, invaluable creature. His arm suddenly gripped my waist and he leaned backwards, pulling me to straddle his lap. Our kiss was only intensified as we shifted together. Quinn's chest rumbled as if he were purring beneath me. One arm held me snugly around my waist and against him. His other hand left my hair and began stroking my back. My body shivered in response, and at that Quinn paused, cheeks flushed red. Valkii, I want to take this further, but we can stop if you want. Further? You mean, like... Only as far as you're willing. We don't have to have... if you're not ready. What else is there? Quinn's eyes flashed with amusement. He leaned forward and kissed the nape of my neck. There are millions of ways to create pleasure, hon. I can show you? Can I show you? Sure. You seem unsure. Don't say yes unless you mean it. I won't be hurt. I'd like to try. He grinned at me and patted my thigh to encourage me off. I stood on shaky legs. I'm gonna grab some things. Will you grab some water bottles? I'll meet you in your room. Grab some water bottles? What the fuck, is this gonna be an all-nighter? Quinn rushed off to his bedroom and I grabbed some bottles of water from the fridge as requested before heading back to my bedroom. You know what? I'm gonna end it here and I'll see you in the next one. You're never gonna see the good stuff anyway unless you buy the game.